everybody, welcome to another Rick's Picks. Today I'm going to be doing my review of the Masters of the Universe Origins exclusive figure, Despara by Mattel. Now, I was excited for this figure when I first heard that they came out with her. I always liked this version of her. So for any of you who don't know, this is Adora She-Ra before she turned to good, when she was still working for the evil Horde. This was from I want to say the early 2000 to mid 2000 comic book series that DC Comics did. I actually do have that series. It was a pretty decent series where, they had her dressed up like this. She looked like a villain. And then, they break away the mask and you find out that it's Adora. And then she gets turned to the ways of good again. Now, in the original Filmation cartoon, they didn't do something like this. Instead, she just looked like how she normally looks in her normal outfit, except that she was part of the Horde, and then He-Man turned her back to good, long story short. So I like the factor that she's actually in a Horde outfit. It would make more sense than her just dressed up as normal. So I love this version of her. I'm really excited to see what they did with this figure. So with that being said, I'd like to thank everybody who has subscribed. You're very much appreciated. And for anybody who does watch this video and like it and you haven't subscribed, then I please ask that you subscribe as well and check out my Masters of the Universe playlist. So, without any further ado, let's get to the review. So here she is in packaging. I love the packaging for her. So you have your standard Masters of the Universe card back with the exploding red rocks. Masters of the Universe, her name. You got retro play over here. 40 Years of She-Ra. Come around to this side. You get this nice picture of her up front. You usually don't do that on the MasterCard, so that's a neat little touch. Bring it around here. You get this beautiful art. I love this art. So you see her fighting one of the snake men. I believe they're called the pit fighters or something like that, which is really cool. I love that picture, and you can see that she's getting ready to take both of those heads off. Okay. Then you see Hordak in the back with the Horde Revenant, which is pretty cool. I do like that a lot. I love the overall look to this. Now, you notice there's these plastic tabs on the side, and that's because you can slide the card back off and take the figure out without damaging the packaging, which is really nice. Sometimes Mattel will do this or some of these exclusive figures. So, back around to the front. So, overall, I do like how they did the packaging for her. So, with all that being said, let's open her up and see what she's about. So, here we have her out of packaging. Now, I removed the cape and helmet and stuff just so we could get a better look at the figure. And we'll look more into those when we start looking at her accessories. But I want to get a really good look at this figure overall. So the first thing we're going to do is go through her points of articulation. Let's get her off the stand here. So the head does move. You got a shoulder joint here with a swivel. You got an elbow joint. And you do have a wrist joint. All right, get the arms up. She does have a torso joint. All right. She has a thigh joint with a knee joint. Probably one of the better knee joints that I've seen for the Masters of the Universe, especially with the females. That's a really good joint there. You got a swivel at the top of the boot. And then you have an ankle joint. So everything seems to want to move very well on her. I don't have any issues. So now let's start looking at some of her finer details. So we're going to start off with the head sculpt. Now the head looks pretty interesting. I kind of like the look to it. I'm not exactly sure about the black underneath the eyes. Kind of gives her like that football player kind of look. I guess that's supposed to make her look more evil. As you notice, she has a shorter haircut opposed to the shoulder length hair that she normally has. Actually, I think her hair usually goes down her back. But she definitely has shorter hair. All right. Let's take a look at it on this side. And what have you. So the head sculpt isn't bad. I do like it. Now let's start looking at her armor. And I like how they put detail into the armor. So you got this black here with the red diamond in it, and even this gray. And there's like, you can see like these lines coming down on the armor, which looks really nice. And then they have this printed effect on her legs and arms. I like that. But when you come around to this side, you could get a really good look at her arm here. And you can see all the detailing and everything on the arm, like the arrow, the stripes, and all. So that's really nice. I like how they did that. Come around to the back here. You got like this black armor here that looks really cool. I do like that. All right, come around looking at this side. You can see the leg painting a little bit better here. You can see underneath the arm and what have you. I'm keeping the arm up because it looks basically the same as the other one. And back around to the front. So I really do feel like they put some really good attention to detail into this figure. So now let's start looking at her accessories. So first off, you got the iconic Horde helmet. That's, pretty much looks like Hordak himself, which is really nice. I do like how that looks. Now, this is a clip-on helmet. I don't know how I feel about that. So when you look at the back, you can see that it's just a clip-on. I think it might have been nicer if it was a full helmet or maybe even a head swap, But we'll see how well it works with her. Okay. So now you have this lower piece here of her Horde armor that drapes over the legs. You got her cape and cowl kind of set up here. I like the shoulder piece. I think that's really nice. The cape itself, I think I probably would have liked it to have been cloth, but as you watch my videos, I usually tend to favor cloth, but it doesn't look so bad for vinyl. Most of your Origin figures and what have you have a vinyl cape, so that's not a surprise to me either. Then she has two swords here. So she has basically the Triclops swords. All right. 1 and 2. All right. So now that we looked at everything, let's see how well it all puts together on her. So first off, I'm going to take her apart at the torso. Eventually. There it goes. We're going to put this back on her. Just like that. Slides on, no problem. All right. She's back together. Now we're going to take the head off so we could pop this piece on. All right. Put the head back on. There we go. And then last but not least, we're going to clip on the helmet. So boom, there she is. Full garb. So let's give this a rotation. I do like this chest piece here. I think that's really neat with the flare out shoulders. All right. So you come around back here. Yeah, see what I mean about this just being a clip-on? I think I would like for the back of her head to be closed off. I think it would complete the helmet look, but it's not bad for what it is, I guess. Back to this side. And around to the front. So overall, with all her gear on, she looks pretty cool. Let's try these swords on her. Now, I don't know if I'm too hip on the Triclops swords with her. I think it might have been better if she would have had her own style swords, instead of these things. They almost look a little bit too big for her. Actually, it almost gives me like a Guts kind of feeling from Berserk, where he always had like very large swords. But they do work in her hands. There's no issues with them. Like I said, I think I might have liked smaller swords. It'd be a little bit more elegant and maybe work a little bit better with her. But they're still cool all the same. All right. So now let's see how well these fit in her back holsters. Pull that one off. Pull that off. Spin her around. All right. A little bit of a tight fit, but it works. And there. So they fit pretty well on the back, and they actually look kind of cool back there. I do like how they look on her back. And bring her around to the front. So everything seems to work pretty well with this figure. Now let's not forget, she also comes with a mini comic too. So right here, you got this, the Phantoms of Despara. This is a cool cover. I really like this. I do feel like there's some nice art in here. Now the real cool thing is this final panel. Where is it? I love this picture of her staring in a broken mirror so you can see She-Ra, you can see Despara. I think that's a really neat panel. I really like that. That panel there just tells a story within itself. So this is a pretty cool mini comic. I'm excited to start reading it and what have you. So let me get into my final thoughts with her. So her joints and everything move very easily. I do like how her joints work. Her weapons and accessories swap out very easily. Didn't have any issues with that. She's an overall good looking figure. I like the overall look to her. I like the attention to detail to her as well, where she has all these black markings on her and stuff. I think that is really cool. I like how they did the armor. The helmet, I do like the look of the helmet. I'm not too sure about liking it as a clip on. I still feel like it would be better served if it was a full helmet or maybe an alternate head. But for what it is, it works. The swords I feel like are a little too big for her. They don't really work with me with her. I would see a character like this wanting something smaller, more elegant, faster. Like I understand, Masters of the Universe is notorious for using, you know, things from other figures such as body parts, weapons, and so forth. It's always been their thing. But if you were going to repurpose weapons for, then I would probably have used the original She-Ra sword, that thinner sword. If you're going to repurpose a sword for her, those would probably work. Give her two of those, give them this paint job. That probably would have worked a lot better for this figure. But overall, she still is a cool figure. I would recommend her, especially if you're a big She-Ra fan or if you like the DC Masters of the Universe comics. Then she's definitely a must-have. Me personally, I always liked this personality. I'm really glad that they finally made a figure for in the Origin line because they did make one for her in the Classics line as well. So yes, I would recommend this figure to anybody who's a big Masters of the Universe fan. So with that being said, first off, I want to thank everybody who has watched this video. You're very much appreciated. And also, I ask that you check out my Masters of the Universe playlist and hit that like, share, and subscribe. They're all small clicks for you, but it helps this channel grow. So, until the next one, late.